For our next game review, I thought I'd go a bit retro and go with a title that I'd heard a bit about but never actually got to play. So when someone recommended I do it for the show, I thought, why not? So join us as we check out the supernatural thriller F.E.A.R 2, Project Origin. Having not played the first F.E.A.R, I felt a jump into the second game, which was released early 2009, would probably be the best approach. And what I found was quite a pleasantly entertaining horror first-person shooter. Developed by Monolith Productions and published by Warner Brothers, F.E.A.R 2 Project Origin plays like a mixture of The Ring and Doom. So with a shaky flashlight, we step into it. F.E.A.R 2 overlaps from the end of the first game with a new protagonist, Delta Force agent Michael Beckett. As what seems to be just a routine mission of picking up a scientist, it soon turns into a bloody battle with some unknown enemy soldiers. You'll slowly learn about Olma, the so-called Mother of the Apocalypse, who's out to get you, and the supernatural suspense of the story begins. It's a well-written story, which unfolds at a good pace with many fantastically eerie scenes which will have you experiencing visions of ghosts and the supernatural. There's a genuine feeling of foreboding in this dark and futuristic setting, and you'll always be checking your back just to be sure you're alone. The action is smooth, full of many scary and surprising moments, but it can seem a little easy at times, with some awkward controls, but generally, it's a lot of fun. Although it's not as polished as some of the big shooters out there these days, F.E.A.R 2 can still impress. Some of my favourite parts are when your character is half losing his mind to creepy visions. The effects work well and the apparitions mixed in with the hardcore action gives it a unique flavour. Being a horror shooter, you're going to want a strong stomach to play this game as it loves to delve into gore. You'll always feel like you've just missed a massacre with many ripped open bodies decorating the levels. It's gross, but it adds a lot to this title. The dark, scary theme of F.E.A.R is explored wonderfully and it really adds to the tension. And I love how you can feel the character's movements as well. As he jumps over rails or pushes buttons, or even when you're running, you feel like you're controlling a real person. The use of lighting is another nice touch, as you'll need to flick on your torch just to find all the enemies and exit, and it acts as another layer of suspense. There's a strong voice acting cast and the eerie music fits the game perfectly. It's not going to amaze you in detail, but considering how well F.E.A.R 2 plays on its dark themes, it's sure to pull you in. In many ways, F.E.A.R 2 is a pretty standard shooter. You'll have your standard assault rifle and shotguns to choose from, enemies will attack in hordes coming from all directions, and it's pretty satisfying executing them in a bloody burst. When they become too overwhelming, you can simply flick on bullet time, which heightens your senses, slowing down and highlighting enemies. The action is fast and fluid, and although it carries on a bit in the hospital, you'll soon be roaming around outside with some great looking aftermath scenes. There are some boss battles and missions where you'll need to locate certain objects, but it gets a whole lot more interesting in the second half where you get to control some robotic vehicles. Apart from that, it doesn't mix up the game that too much, but what it does do is amp up the excitement with some freaky parts of gameplay by throwing in crazy monster characters at you in a crumbling building and with a strange sense that someone's out to get you. Apart from the single player, F.E.A.R 2 does have online play, except I wouldn't know anything about it because no one else was online. Which is a real shame because I wanted to get some of those trophies. F.E.A.R 2, whilst a relatively old game and it's in a genre where there's just a bunch of other titles, I still had a fun experience with it. The dark elements and scary themes are easily this game's best asset, but it just lacks the polish that many other first-person shooters have. Still, I'm pretty happy that I checked this out. And just the way it combines horror and action is brilliant, and I had, a good time. So I'm going to give it about a 7.85 out of 10.01.